Welcome to Be Super University. Today we are learning more about the driving forces, specifically about the knowledge continuum. As a reminder, there are 12 driving forces and 6 continuums. So this is one of the 6, 2 of the 12, and overall an individual has 4 primary areas that they have the strongest drivers in, the strongest motivators, the things that really energize you and get you going. So as we talk today, let's find out if one of your primary drivers are instinctive or intellectual. So let's talk about each of these, learn a little bit more. We're never going to be able to cover each of these in a 10-minute video. However, we're going to have individual videos down the road for each of these to learn a little bit more. So today, we're going over the continuum as a whole. We want you to learn a little bit, get interested, and let's see if we can go down the road together and learn a little bit more later on. My name is Jake Newman. I'm an expert in behaviors and motivators, and I'm here to help you identify your superpowers and become a hero to those around you. So let's get started. First and foremost, the driving forces, we also call them motivators. They started in a book from the 1928 by Edward Springer. He was a German psychologist. Interestingly enough, the disc that we talk about on occasion also started back in 1928 from another psychologist who wrote a book for the disc. The book that Edward Springer wrote was called Types of Men. It was all about motivators, about 6 specific motivators that later on, as studies continued and people learned, became these 6 continuums that now have 12 total drivers. So first we'll start with instinctive. Let's talk about knowledge. So the definition of the knowledge driving force is individuals valuing learning knowledge, learning in general, and discovery. And so these are the 2 different ways that they could go about doing that. They're opposites in the way that you go about learning that knowledge. So with instinctive, these people utilize past experiences, intuition, and they're seeking specific knowledge when necessary. So they'll do it mainly when it's necessary. A lot of times they need to understand the purpose and agree with the purpose in order for them to do further research and go forward to learn that knowledge. If it's not interesting to them, if they don't understand the purpose behind it, they're not going to do as deep of research as some people might like them to do. When they're working or when they're interacting, whatever it may be, once again, they're utilizing those past experiences. So when it comes to working on projects, they use those past experiences for the current situation to see how those can help further that situation along. They have that intuition, right? That they feel strongly about something, and usually that could mean that it's because they felt strongly about something, they actually have done further research, and that's where that intuition's coming from to say, hey, this is the way to do this. And then seeking specific knowledge when necessary. So that comes back to that purpose. If they understand the purpose and they agree with that purpose, then they're going to go as far as they need to gain the knowledge that they need to have. So these people can, if they're passionate, they can go really deep into knowledge. They can learn a lot about some specific things, but those things always have a purpose behind them. Myself, I'm actually neither of these. When we talk about the 12 driving forces, and there's 4 primary, these are not in my top 4. But I would say that I'm more on the instinctive side, because when it comes to things I'm passionate about, one of those being driving forces, another being disc, I am very involved in learning as much as I can about these two sciences because I enjoy them and I find the value there, and it has a purpose for me. So instinctive people, we'll come back and kind of compare the 2 after we learn a little bit more about this intellectual side. So on the intellectual side, these people thrive on opportunities to learn. They just love acquiring knowledge and discovering truth. It doesn't actually even matter what it is. They usually dive into a variety of subjects. They generalize in a lot of different areas of knowledge. And I don't have an analogy for instinctive yet, but an analogy or something to compare to on the intellectual side, I think of a squirrel. So if you think about a squirrel and how they are out gathering all their nuts, right? And they're burying them for when winter comes. They want to have that resource to survive the winter. Well, I think about the same thing when I think of an intellectual person who has this as their motivator, because they are just gathering knowledge. It doesn't actually have to serve a purpose in the moment, but later on, who knows, 2 years down the road, something that they had studied really in depth might come up, and they might have they might need it, right? It's that winter month where, hey, this information's needed and I just happen to have it. And so I think of squirrels gathering that information, even though they don't need it right there in the moment. Who knows, they may need it down the road. And then the other thing that I kind of think of squirrels for is these individuals can actually sometimes get very distracted because they love to learn. These are those continuing, those people who have that ideal of lifelong learning. They always want to learn something new. It doesn't have to be anything specific. They just want to continue to learn something. So they can sometimes get easily distracted because there's something really cool to learn here, but there's also something over here to learn, and they could get distracted. I kind of think of that the movie Up, where Doug the dog, and it's like squirrel, and he like gets stuck, right? He gets distracted immediately on something different because it catches his attention. And so intellectual people, they're chasers of information. They just like to gather information. Doesn't really matter what it is. When it comes to, so let's compare some information about the two. Let's first focus on maybe a project, right? You're in the workplace, you have this new project, and an instinctive person is in charge of that project. Because they only seek the specific knowledge when it's necessary, these people a lot of times will actually start the project before all the knowledge has been gathered or gained, because they prefer to work off of those past experiences and intuition. And so they'll just get started into the project and push it forward. On the opposite side, the intellectual person, because they want to gather all the information, they want to know every nook and cranny of that piece of information, they won't start the project until they feel like they have exhausted that piece of knowledge. And then they feel good about moving forward because they feel like there's nothing else to learn in that moment or about that subject. So they'll start the project once they feel good about the knowledge they have. So that could actually be good. It could also be bad in both situations, right? If you start the project too early and then something bad happens because you didn't have the proper amount of knowledge or know the right thing, or if you took too long to start a project, there could be goods and bads on both sides of this. What style are you? What driving force are you feeling comfortable with or connected to as we've talked about these things? There is so much more to learn about each of these. To dive a little bit deeper in it before we finish this video, something to make sure and do with somebody who's instinctive. If you have an idea in your mind of somebody who could have this instinctive driver as one of their things that really gets their juices flowing and really gets them to drive forward, some of the ways to really get their attention and get them interested in whatever it is you're working on is to invite them to use those past experiences to help with a project, to be okay with them using their intuition, that gut feeling that they have, to go down a journey to figure out if something could work or maybe not work. Allow them to do that. Give them that flexibility, and really just believe in them that they're going to be led by those experiences in a good direction. For the intellectual person, it's obviously the opposite of that. So if you have a project that really needs some real in-depth investigation, some real in-depth analysis to really understand the full picture of something, these are your prime people that you want invested in that project, because they are going to do everything they can with that project to make sure it's successful and to make sure it has all the knowledge built around it. And that's really going to get them going. As you think about where you are, as well as the people around you are, I want to invite you to come back tomorrow and learn about another continuum. If this has been interesting to you, if this has been helpful for you, click subscribe below. Share this with friends, family, and leaders. Anybody who could find value in this. We're talking about value right now. When you find something valuable, it motivates you, it gives you that energy. Also, if you believe that we could work together, that we could help your team or you as an individual progress further, have higher performance, more effective communication, build stronger relationships, have a better team culture, and overall just be excited and engaged in what you're doing, then let's talk. Let's have a 30-minute free consultation. My email is in the description below. Send me a message. Let's talk. Let's find out how we can work together and how we can really help you excel, help your team excel, help your organization excel. And don't forget, care to share and be somebody's hero.